Hello everyone, welcome to Fearfully Greedy. I've been slacking a bit, at least for the channel. Real work takes so much time and I have focused my time in it because the return is just much higher there and a lot of fun. But I want to go back to uploading more often. I think a great way of doing that is aiming for short, sweet, still useful videos that I can bring my lazy self to do. Since I started investing, I've never invested in banks. Their huge balance sheets scare me, so much debt, obligations, products, also banks. Ugh. Right? In my country they also get a very bad rap. They seem like black boxes with unstable earnings. In cases like this, I prefer to use big metrics that zoom out. The most widely used metric for banks is return on equity. How much are we profiting per net dollar sitting in our balance sheet? That's fitting, because money itself is the machine used to get returns in banks. I went ahead and brought you trailing 12 months return on equity of some of the biggest publicly traded banks in the world, ranked by color. Green is better, that's in all the graph. I see Capital One and Ally on top and European banks in the bottom. Then if we compare this last year to the 10-year average, we can see if this season heavy hitters have been good for a while. I really like comparing versus longer terms. Now, Hingham and Bank of China are the top dogs, but the worst stays the same, Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank. Main takeaways: don't touch those two with a 10-foot pole. Next up is very simple. If we divide this by your cost of capital, also known as expected return or hurdle rate, let's say 10%, we get a ratio. For example, 16% return on equity over 10% cost of equity gives us a 1.6 ratio. Then we need to find the price to book, to incorporate the price variable. Keeping the price variable out of any analysis I wouldn't recommend. A great product is a great product, but the price tag cannot be infinite. And with that we compare the two values, return on equity divided by cost of equity versus the price to book. If we want to focus on the last year's earnings, we see some wide difference. If we focus on the 10-year average ratios, we see very little of that. We find the widest difference in Bank of China for obvious reasons. What I like to do next is check for other things in banks, like doing the same ranking but with tangible book, tier 1 capital ratios, equity ratios, current public image and restrictions, geographies, if the last year returns are more stable and significant than the 10-year average, and then digging into what looks best and trying to understand why. What I mean by this is that it's just a useful metric, but nothing that warrants an investment. The real work would start after this. I'm actually eyeing some banks, but my capital for the project is almost fully invested and I like what I own. Since the last video, I've added 2 naked wines on the 16th of September and the 4th of October. 2,500 shares in total, and on the 7th of October I added 2,000 more shares to packs. The portfolio after 860 days is sitting on an 8% loss. Will I add some banks in the portfolio in the future? Most likely yes. If I find something that makes a lot of sense, I'm not opposed to it. Next video I'd like to do rather soon is an update on the portfolio. A few lines on every position after recent news. Stay tuned for that. If you don't want to miss it and want to support the channel, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching and be safe.